On today's show, we check in on the Nuggets defense through 2 games in preseason. Is it where it needs to be? We'll tell you why it is and isn't. Plus, Jonas Valanciunas, is he an every night player? And is he a 16 gamer? All that. And I got a warning for you about preseason. Coming up on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer, hanging out with us Monday through Friday, being a part of our community and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on Swipe and Gripe, because I'm griping and he's swiping. His name's Swipa Cam. You can catch him on his YouTube page after every Nuggets game. You can catch him on the Player's Choice. He's got new NFL shows. What are the NFL shows, sir?
Press Box every Wednesday and at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard on Sundays. And then we have Locked On NFL Game Night launch on Sunday night, and we record after Sunday Night Football, and then it comes out every Monday morning.
Swipe is a little under the weather today, but he is toughing it out to do the show with me today. I'm Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I host the Denver Dig Substack that covers Denver Nuggets. Got a piece coming out on everything I've seen from preseason so far to get you set for the weekend and the next week of preseason action. On today's show, we're going to go over some reminders about preseason play. We're going to talk about Jonas Valanciunas, and we're going to talk about why I think he's an every-nighter. But we're going to start today with a checkup on the defense. So we're 2 games in through preseason. The first performance versus the Minnesota Timberwolves can be described as pretty rough. I think the excellent performance, or the performance versus the Raptors, can be considered excellent. Swipa, where are you at with the defense? What's your concern level? What's your confidence level? Where are you at?
Yeah, I actually liked a lot of what they did defensively. I thought some things were curious, Matt Moore. So the first one that was the immediate thing I noted, Brandon Ingram was not being guarded by Aaron Gordon. Brandon Ingram was not being guarded by Christian Brown. They specifically put Cam Johnson on him. And Cam, in part because it's preseason and who cares, I think it was also a part of setting a tone. He was playing extremely aggressive with Brandon Ingram. Remember, he got 3 fouls in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. So, Matt, some of this is in my mind, and I would love to hear your thoughts, here kind of after this soliloquy. I was wondering in my brain, I'm like, well, is he just trying to are they trying to set a tone for the rest of the year? Like, this is like how we're going to play. Like, we're letting the referees, letting each other know we're going to play very physical at the point of attack. We might get call fouls every so often, but look, this is the tone we're setting. Or was it just like a response from the first game where it's like we were so soft at the point that we're going to make a point now versus Brandon Ingram and the Raptors to be more physical? And so when you watch the first quarter happen, I kind of got a chance to see the Nuggets. They played good defense. They were getting stops, and they were scoring on the other end. And I was loving just how engaged they were. Jamal Murray, who's looked phenomenal so far through preseason and really through the summer since the Rico Hines runs. To me, that's also if Jamal is in a place, Matt, where, I said this on Player's Choice earlier, because in the last few years, he started off the year, he's like a low efficiency player, not very good decision maker. He's somebody that's kind of just murmuring through. But the last, 55, 60 games of the year, he's a 23-7 player, almost 50, 40, 90. If the Nuggets get that game 1, that changes up, I think, their season win total and just how good they could be. But I did think that the effort defensively was there. And for you, when you watch Cam Johnson, especially versus Brandon Ingram and the fouls, do you think they were trying to set a tone, or is this maybe Adelman saying we really just need to have more physicality as an overall defense moving forward?
Yeah, I thought they were so soft versus the Wolves, in part because I just don't think that was the first game, and they were not used to going up against anybody with that kind of change of speed, like Dillingham and Bones. And it really caught them off guard. You could just tell that they were like, oh, crap, these guys are so much faster than the guys we have in practice. And it really kind of caught them. And they weren't physical either. It was a combination of both. So I do think that they were doing that. I will note this. So you're right that they had Cam guarding Brandon Ingram, which actually makes a lot of sense to me given Ingram's length. One thing I've noticed from the first 2 games, which is curious to me, teams are actually forcing a surprising amount of switches to get Cam Johnson onto the primary ball handler or involving him in pick and roll actions. I wouldn't say targeting. I would say that teams are testing Cam Johnson more than they're testing other guys. And that might just be as simple as like, well, okay, if he's going to be on a guy that can handle, which he can be, we'd rather take that than AG or Cam Johnson or than Christian Brown. Like that might be as simple as it is.
Yeah.
But I am just kind of curious because I haven't loved actually Cam's lateral movement. And this is a big deal here, because if you're going to make the move of Michael Porter for Cam Johnson and you give up the first round pick, and to me, it's like, look, it's not one thing, it's all the things together. It's you open up the flexibility to do the other things that you did.
Mm-hmm.
You solved a long-term problem with this move. You solved several long-term problems with this move.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're just going to swap out Mike for Cam, let's not talk about the trade, but let's just talk about the in-out equation. Cam's a great shooter, but he's not as good as Mike. And he's going to make up for that with his on-ball ability, versatility, and being even a little bit better defensively. Now, just the fact that you can feel more comfortable with Cam being in these situations versus like panicking when Mike would get put out in these islands is a step in the right direction. Like that's got value in and of itself. But I always think about this. Is it better to have a guy that you have to constantly hide, or is it better to have a guy who you don't have to hide, but you can attack? Because that efficiency gap gets pretty narrowed there. I'm not saying that I think Cam Johnson is going to be a negative defensive player. And by the way, in the Raptors game, he had the lowest defensive rating of anybody on the team. It's preseason. Who cares? But I can't look at this and be like, oh, and you notice the Raptors tore them up when Cam Johnson. That's not what happened. So that's the only reason I kind of referenced that number. I am just going to be kind of curious to see whether or not Cam Johnson becomes the guy that maybe is involved more defensively than you would expect, and what that means for them. Even though they're going to challenge Jamal, but I will say to your, like, as you mentioned, I cannot be more thrilled with how Jamal Murray has played on both ends of the floor. Like, I have zero complaints about Jamal through training practice and 2 preseason games. None. Zero. It probably means he'll have a bad opening night, because if you remember, Michael Porter Jr. was like killing it in preseason, and we're like, look out for Mike. And then he had like a really bad opening night, and we're like, well, so much for that. And then like from there on, he had a really great November. But it might happen with Jamal. But I love the way Jamal's playing. I am kind of curious though if you think that Cam Johnson, is it good or bad that they're more willing to involve Cam Johnson in some of these actions?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to see a larger sample. For me, Cam had a few possessions there, in particular on the pick and roll, where he was trailing and then he would get caught on the screen.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, okay. But for me, it feels like a timing thing. Now playing at the level and then playing at the drop, because Jokic, and I think maybe this is probably a important basketball note. Remember, Adelman said Jokic makes the decision based on if he's playing up or drop. Do you think maybe that's a little bit, this is like an adjustment with Cam? It's like, okay, where exactly are you on the floor, so that way I know where I need to be in response? Like, do I need to be trailing over the top? Like, am I icing? Like, are we catching? So maybe there's a little bit of hesitation, just simple as I'm not used to playing with 15 versus these other players. I just need to get on the same page with him. And then over time, as he gets used to playing in that spot, overall, he'll be a better defender situationally.
Yeah, so this is a great point you're making, because so often when I ask players about schematic stuff, coaches and players roll their eyes a little bit. And the reason is because when I've actually gotten to talk to them about it more, they're like, you guys get really they're like, you guys get really hung up on what we're trying to do rather than the way that we're trying to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That you're trying to focus in on, should you be running this coverage, when it's like, look, man, if you defend correctly, you can run all sorts of type of different coverages. You just have to do it well enough. Now, sometimes you can't because you're not physically able to, or because of personnel, but you presumably won't be doing that. You're running something that you know you can run. So it's about the small stuff. It's about the attention to detail. It's about effort. It's about being focused. When they say effort, also, a lot of the times we think that that's like running hard. And for them, it's more like, no, it's about being locked in. It's like taking a test and being like ready to go for that test every day, every possession. So a lot of this is about angle, and that stuff will, I think, improve. You mentioned playing at the level, and I think that that's interesting, because on the other side, Jonas Valanciunas is playing at the level. And I think that might be a mistake. I'll tell you why coming up on Locked On Nuggets. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer. No more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. You're going to love the AI agent because it's going to provide you with after hours calls, capture leads, and you can keep your business moving even when you're off the clock. If you're a solo operator, you know that juggling everything is a big part of it. Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no additional charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, swiping right with you on a Thursday. Glad to have you guys with us. Swipe, they've been running Jonas Valanciunas at the level. And I've watched a number of these possessions, and I'm a big proponent of at the level coverage. Like if you execute it right, I think it's the best because what you do is you take away, if this league is driven by primary ball handlers and everybody wants their best guy having the ball all the time, if you take that away and you're like, you have to pass, immediately you're getting them out of their comfort zone. And that's something I like. The Nuggets' problems with it are about the execution on the weak side. And as I talked about with Ryan, about sometimes Jokic's level of effort at the level. With Jonas, though, I do feel like this is a big change, and it's requiring, I think, with the guys that are on that second unit, too much, because you got to close off that angle on the pocket pass underneath. Otherwise, you got that short roll, and there are enough short roll weapons in the league. I'm okay if you force that double and then they kick to a wing or they reverse the ball to the corner even. I think the Nuggets are better positioned this year to guard those actions. Getting a guy loose on a short roll is always going to be like, you haven't lost at that point, but it's very likely you're going to get scored on. Like your points per possession mark, the minute that guy catches that ball, go way, way up. So I have some reservations about playing Jonas at the level. Bruce, I think, is able to do pretty well taking away certain angles. And Peyton's obviously really impactful, but these are the type of things that Peyton still has to learn, is like the timing and how to take away those specific angles. And a lot of it is Jonas is not as comfortable out there. And you can kind of see that he gives a little bit too much space for them to be able to thread that needle because he's just trying to contain. You don't want to give up the edge. Like that's what makes that coverage so tough. If you're playing at the level of a screen as a big, you got to take away the angle. You can't let him split it, so you can't go too wide. But if you go narrow, he gets the edge around you, and then you got an even bigger problem. So like it's a tough coverage, I think, to run. I kind of think that maybe the second unit needs to be running more drop, but that creates its own problems with some of the personnel on the floor too.
So Jonas's best defensive year ever, I have talked about this so many times, was the 2022-23 season when Zion Williamson was gone. Shout out to Willie Green. Willie Green was running Herb Jones. I believe it was CJ. Maybe Dyson might have been still on the roster by that point too, on the bench. But they had Jackson Hayes starting at the 4. They, for a stretch, had the #1 defense in the NBA, and in large part because they were playing drop. And they just put a bunch of athletes around Jonas. And so basically they were forcing you to miss the shot, and then you weren't rebounding.
Yeah.
So single possessions, you weren't making it. Herb was in your face, and Jonas was getting every rebound possible. So I do think there's something to playing drop, but having athletes around Jonas to prevent some of the things either around the basket or on the perimeter, especially in the corners, that happen when you play natural drop coverage versus guards. So there is a level of me where I think that they're trying to mimic the first team with the second team because they're trying to build continuity, I think, because we run level with starters with Jokic. So let's run level with the backups. That way Murray and all them know exactly what they're doing, and we can figure out everything as the year goes on. We'll practice more and more with drop, ice, all that stuff. So I do think in preseason, it's just like, let's just give it a shot. That way we can kind of get an identity going and especially the young guys that are playing with Jonas or the new guys that are playing with Jonas. Let's just make it like across the board. You don't got to worry about it. You're going to play this way with Jokic. You're going to play this way with Val. So Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, Julian Strother, just worry about taking care of these responsibilities. And then by the time we get to December, January, we're playing multiple coverages all in one game, maybe in one possession as well.
How do you feel about Joker being the one to dictate coverage?
I feel like he's been doing that for a while now. I mean, could you remember 2023 in the playoffs? Malone kind of made similar comments about this. Like Joker when in the half court, and some of this is also because this can be a bad thing in one way. I don't know if Joker does that. When Joker's tired, especially like offensive possessions that have been like, he's just back to back to back, score, assist, screen. When he's tired, I think he'll then call a drop or he'll set a drop. That way he can just like get his legs back and then hopefully get the rebound, get a stop, and go back on the other end. But I do think it's important that your quarterback sets your defense. And I think this is very similar with like Chet Holmgren with OKC. I think that if you look at like traditional bigs like Rudy Gobert, Rudy also does this with the Wolves. Rudy is just like a freak of nature. He's 7'5", all over the place. So his drop is not even really a drop. His drop is almost a catch. Yeah. So I think with this is like you always want your center to set the tone. Embiid, I know not a lot of Embiid fans on Locked On Nuggets, but if you watch Embiid over the last several years and in the playoffs especially, he's the captain of the defense. Even with Ben Simmons out there, he's always one of the best anchors in the sport. I think your big should be your quarterback because think about it, your big is facing everything that's in front of you. So your big can call out all the stuff that's happening on the side, screen. They're running elevators, they're running an Iverson cut. He's the one that can say something to the guard because the guard can't see what's happening behind him.
Right.
Now, this was different in Chicago since we're going around the world. Remember, Chicago, their defense was anchored by Lonzo and Caruso.
Yeah.
That was a totally different, they had a super alien in Caruso and Lonzo that were like anchoring everything. So I think this is the way it should be for the most part. It's just that I think Jokic has to be willing to be very communicative and also be willing to give the effort from a foot speed standpoint to make sure he's doing his job in that as well.
Yeah. AG's big comment about why the defense is going to be better is like there's the changes in coverage is that there's fewer gray areas, which I think is interesting.
Can you maybe explain what that might be for the audience? That might be.
I would love to. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speak to it if I don't know it. And so I think like I'm going to ask AG about it next time that I get a chance to ask him questions in a scrum. The other thing I think on this is just I'm good with everything. You're right on everything that you said, as long as the priority is not protecting Jokic, but instead just like protecting the team defense. And I don't know enough to know which is which. If Jokic is like, I can't do this, so we have to do this, versus, hey, this is a little bit harder on me, but this is what we need to do because it makes like we can't allow X, Y, or Z. I get worried about those type of situations.
Well, will this maybe bring you some comfort? Jokic is a super student based on everything that we've heard about.
Yeah, for sure.
And Adelman seems to be indicating, based on Jokic's film work or familiarity with the other player, in particular your guard or your forward, he is setting the coverage based on their ability to pass the ball out of this spot or their ability to score out of this spot. And you got certain players like James Harden. He's like, look, James is a really good passer. Let's play a little bit of drop. I can get in between him and the floater. Where you're playing versus Luka, I want to play up. You're playing versus LeBron, I want to play up. So it does feel like Jokic is taking the role seriously and has been for years. So I wouldn't expect him to be like. But again, there's a push in here with pull. The problem is like he's gonna get tired. So you're gonna have to play drop sometimes. It just is what it is.
Accurate. Yeah. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about Jonas Valanciunas and whether or not he's an every night type of player. I think he absolutely is. I'll tell you why coming up on Locked On Nuggets. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on a player projections, like Josh Allen passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. Gotta love Bo Nix rushing touchdown more this weekend. Gotta love it. I do not think that this Jets team is in a position to keep him out of the red zone, or to stop him once they get there. So really like that spot as well, even if I think the number is a little high. So Good look there. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday. If you're listening to this, if you're listening to this on Friday, make sure to check out Boom and Gloom on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain with Ryan and Swipa. Ryan and I will be with you on Sunday night for No Jinx after the Nuggets preseason game on Sunday. Okay. So you actually brought this topic up about Jonas Valanciunas and whether or not he's an every night player. I was a little surprised by it. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on it before I respond.
I mean, you know how it works. You know, Matt, you play versus a different team. You know, you're a football fan.
I am.
Should you run the power I every single weekend, no matter who you're playing against? Maybe if they're really stout in the middle, you want to be a little more fast around the edges. And so then you're going to run more toss. You're going to run more pulls. You're going to try to get outside of their outside contain and get up the sideline. You know, I'm watching Jonas play, and I'm just like, that's a big man. And he's like big, and he's also less fast than Jokic somehow. Because when he has to turn his engine on to like go down the other way, you know, it's just like there are different kinds of horse. Jonas is a workhorse. Like, they're big, stocky. They're not meant for running races. And so will there be some nights where Jonas, as good as he is, he doesn't need to be getting time over Dignagy, Deron Holmes, or even Aaron Gordon, depending on the team. But there are some nights where you need not only him to play, but you need him and Jokic to play together. So I think a lot of this for me is just looking at matchups and saying, okay, but we're playing versus a little bit of a smaller team that's not like the Pacers, for instance. They're going to have Isaiah Jackson playing the backup five. Is that the best situation for Jonas Valanciunas to be in? Maybe it is, because the defensive rebounding, offensive rebounding, the screen setting, that might end up being enough. But I do think a lot of this is going to be, what kind of defense are they going to put around Jonas Valanciunas to really help him do the best thing that he does, which is to be a glass cleaner, and then on the other end to be a good offensive option. So I think he'll play most nights, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't play versus every single great team that the Nuggets play against.
I get that, and I think it makes sense. I will disagree. I think he's an every nighter, and I think I am very big on this idea. So this was I do not know what it is. There's something about certain teams, including the Thunder and the Pacers, which is why it was really interesting to see them in the finals. The other team cannot resist matching to them. And it makes me crazy. Before the Thunder got Hartenstein in the playoff series versus the Pelicans had this massive size advantage. But they were like, we can't keep up. We've got to play small ball and add more wings. And I'm always like, you have to break them of what they do. The same thing happened with the Death Lineup Warriors, where no one ever tried to counter small ball. They just countered it. Like, the only team that really did it was the Pelicans. And if that team had not had Boogie Cousins suffer the injury that he did, I think it was the Achilles, I think they would have had a real shot against that Warriors team, because Draymond could not play 4 versus that double big lineup of AD and Boogie. You need a counter. If you're playing the Pacers, yes, it's possible that you're going to give up a run on these transition plays. They have a broader transition defense issue that they have to solve. But for me, I'm like, look, when JV is bad, he's going to look slow, a half step off. The floater's going to hit the back iron. He's just going to be like off by a half step. When he looks good, JV looks dominant. He looks like a truck running through a blockade, just a Mack truck plowing through like in some sort of action film. So I think you lean into that and just be like, we're going to absolutely beat the snot out of you. Like, we're going to absolutely beat the crap out of you, and we're going to pick up fouls on you, which is going to keep you from being able to get to this lineup. And if you don't have any bigs to throw back at us, we're going to make it to where we're scoring because you don't have enough size, and then we're able to set our defense. But that's like the crucial component here is you either have to make sure you score, or you better get back on defense. Because if you don't do either, then you're just going to get run on. Then you're back to last year's team. Like this continues to be my biggest worry with the team, Cam, is just transition defense. Get back, get back, get back.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of the stuff with Jonas and the foot speed, but to your point, if they have enough players around him that are doing their job and they're sprinting back because they're the high man, when the shot goes up, then yeah, maybe it works out well. Look, Jonas has been, from an offensive standpoint, Matt, Jonas looked really good.
Really good.
Like the shot making over the top, he did a nice little Kobe fadeaway on the sideline, made over his right shoulder. The floaters, the finishing, the rebounding's been good. So again, like Jonas is a super efficient interior scorer, and honestly, people keep saying this. When's the last time the Nuggets had a backup center that could do this? I'm like, y'all, come on, let's not act like Boogie Cousins wasn't getting work in. Boogie had 21 points in game 5.
Yep.
Versus the Warriors.
Yep.
I think Jonas has the ability to, like Matt, there are going to be several nights where between Jonas and Jokic, 40 and 20 between the two of them. Just between the two of them. 50 and 20 just between the two of them. And then I do think that adds a lot to, that's so much pressure for the other team to have to every single possession get on the board, box out. Every single possession, you got a bully with a 7-footer on the inside. And then I think versus a team like Zubac and Brook Lopez, look, this is big on big. Like this is the clash of titans. This is going to be a lot of fun. So I do understand what you're saying, and I'm excited to see him play. But I'm really curious to see how who do they put around Jonas to make it really all the worthwhile, to make sure they're maximizing his skill set as well.
What's weird is, in training camp, there's the media, we were kind of like, they're not real. Like they would talk about Peyton if asked, but nobody was offering up like, who looks great? It's Peyton Watson. Like nobody was saying that. So I was a little concerned, especially with the contract stuff. He looks great to me.
Yeah, he's crazy.
The handle's going to make a big difference. Having another ball handler who can initiate, especially with that length, is huge. I really think that the combination of Peyton and JV could be a positive EV lineup combo.
Ooh, positive lineup.
Yeah. And then especially I'm very curious to see what this looks like on Sunday, because I think we're going to probably start getting staggers. If Jamal doesn't sit, if Jokic sits and we see Jamal and JV, apparently the synergy between those two has been really great.
So did you see in the second quarter, what their last, one of their last group, it was Bruce Brown, Cam Johnson, Spencer Jones, Peyton Watson, Valanciunas.
Yep.
How'd you like that?
I liked it.
Does Spencer get real playing time this year, by the way? Are we like, is that like an underwritten story? Because like he played the 2 for Christian Brown in the first game, but then he's also been able to play the 4 that time for this team as well. Or the 4 or 3, whichever one you want to put him, Peyton Watson. We can see you. You're very, Matt Moore thinks he's frozen. He's not frozen. Hello.
Now I'm frozen back. Now I'm frozen. I was pretending to be frozen.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so the Spencer thing, I thought it was really notable that when they had a starter that either got banged up or needed a rest in one of the scrimmages, that Spencer was playing with the 1s. It's not that like Spencer's good enough to play with the 1s. It's just that of all the guys that they would select, even if it's a positional thing, just the fact that Spencer got those minutes and the fact like they look like they're giving Spencer like real run here. I don't know if it's going to translate. I don't know if it's going to mean, because like, it's not like I don't think he's played great. I don't think he's been bad, but I just don't think he hasn't been like. Is it maybe his just a defensive aggressiveness also that's really been and the size, saving him? Yeah, Spencer's big. Yeah, like Spencer's just big, and he plays like a big forward. I actually really like him because I'm always partial to the G League guys, and he killed it in G League last year. His jump shot drives me crazy. Yeah. Though. I know, but like, have you seen that? Like, he can shoot, but I know, but he could shoot here. So it's funny you say that. It's a shooting contest after practice. Who cares? The bigs always do well in these things. But it was him, Duran, and Zeke in the after practice shooting contest that I got to see for 2 days out in San Diego, and like, they were all like just knocking him down. It was really good. How long until we recognize Duran as the best standalone shooter on the team? Yeah, so bro, he keeps doing it. I know, like, Ryan. Look, Ryan and I talked about it on Sunday nights or on Tuesday show. is it's just really tough. I think he's going to continue to look great in games, and fans are going to be like, why doesn't this guy play? And the answer is because of all the stuff that you don't see.
He just is not there mentally.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It's not an attitude thing. It's not an attitude thing. Like Duran's attitude is great. Everybody's very like
you have
he's
to learn how to be a pro.
Yeah, he's a worker. It's just the curve that he's on. But it does kind of show you what I think is really interesting about that is like, so there's this curve that he's way behind, and yet he's able to come in the game and do the things that are like, hey, like making threes is a good thing. Grabbing rebounds is a good thing.
What will be his thing he's most known for this season, you think? Like, will it be the shooting? Will it be the defensive versatility, the shot blocking? What will he add most to the team?
Putbacks and threes. Tough putbacks. Tough putbacks. I think he'll get some M1s.
Explosive plays. Okay.
Yeah. Finally, I just want to kind of give everybody a reminder, because I have to remind myself of this, that you can't get caught up in these preseason swings. So like the first game comes out, and the first time you see these guys play together, and like I was like, oh man, the defense is a mess, and Christian doesn't look aggressive, and like blah 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 blah. And then like their performance is just way better versus the Raptors. And I did say this to Ryan after the first game, and I want to reiterate it. This is not like they are not working on being the best version of themselves or even just trying to win the game. They are literally only working on how to do the things they want to do, how to execute. This is way more about process than it is about not even results, but performance. They don't even care about like performance. You worry about performance after you learn how to do the thing, right? Like you worry about how much weight you can lift after you learn the right form. Because even if you're lifting more, but your form is bad, you're not gonna go anywhere and you're gonna hurt yourself.
Right.
And it's the same kind of concept. So just as a reminder, don't get too caught up about. And also, you will notice a lot of really great players shoot terribly in preseason. So never get caught up on those type of things.
Well, should we not take anything away from Jokic shooting like 100% in preseason so far?
I think it's crazy because I have not loved how he has looked. And it's just like you look up and it's like he's got 14, 5, and 6 in 19 minutes. The game is so easy for that man.
Is it like an AD thing where you want to come in the camp like a little heavier so that because football you start off heaviest in training camp, and then by the time the year you settle around like 15 pounds lower.
Everybody says once you hit 30, you start working yourself into shape as the season goes, because you just do. He's going to burn it off. So I'm not worried about it at all. This guy do it for Locked On Nuggets. Make sure to check out Swipa at SwipaCam and on his YouTube page. Check out Player's Choice and the Press Box as well as Locked On and NFL Game Night on Sundays. Catch the Denver Dig. I'll have a new post up there for you as well. Would love it if you subscribed. We'll see you guys again tomorrow for Boom and Gloom at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain. Thanks for joining us. Till next time, we'll see you on Locked On Nuggets.
The job is done. We can go home now.